Hello everybody. Welcome to another video featuring the DJI Phantom 4 Pro, the new Phantom drone from DJI. I'll go into some more kind of technical details in a little bit, but kind of the first thing we're going to talk about here is a close encounter. I've climbed up to about 180 feet here pretty quickly, and I'm flying along towards this formation. You can see a little right of center, and I hear a small airplane. I don't see him yet, but I hear him. So I stop, I wait to see if I can find him, and there I see him. Kind of tough to see. It's moving towards the right corner, and now I see him, and I'm starting to descend, and you can see him a little closer now. He's moving towards the center, there he is, pretty easy to see here now, just moving out of the frame over the top and then coming back in, moving towards the right. So he came around, and I thought he was at this point going away, but no. You can see he's looping around, and so at this point I say, okay, I better get even lower because I don't know what he's going to do, and I go down to like 24 feet. Now he's continuing to loop around. He's done one full loop and he's starting a second loop, and now for some reason I turn and look to the right. I don't know why. I guess I thought he was going to be heading in that direction. I wasn't anticipating him making a second loop, but he did. So I turned back, and it's a little tough to pick him up at first. He'll be almost directly behind it. There he is, directly behind the formation there, and probably not more than 300 feet above the ground. Coming around for a second loop, and once again, for whatever reason, I kind of turn away, looking towards the direction I assume he's going to go, but I probably should have kept the camera right where it is and then just followed him when he came back into the field of view. There he is. So probably about 300 feet, maybe a tad more than that, and then he banks to the right, starts climbing, and he's out of here. So he's definitely moving on at that point, so time to press on. And notice the props in the top corners there. Only a few times in this light, and of course the camera's tilted up quite a bit at this point as I was looking for the plane. Props again a little bit, but when I tilt the camera down, as I do here in a little bit, props aren't a problem. Alright, so tilted the camera down a little bit, and you kind of use one of the old rules of thumb of photography, the rule of thirds, where you generally want the horizon to either be a third of the way from the bottom or a third of the way from the top. Now, all of these rules can be broken. They're not cast in concrete, but as a general rule, the rule of thirds makes sense. It does tend to make for more balanced video, more balanced still pictures for that matter. So heading to this formation, and I'm shooting here in manual exposure, as I always do. I'm at f5.6, ISO 100, and my shutter speed is right around 1/1000th of a second. It's considerably more light today than the previous video, which was kind of overcast. So we're running, a shutter speed right around a 1,000th of a second. And I'm using the H.265 codec. You can see the detail is really quite good. And the other thing you notice, of course, if you're from another part of the country like the East Coast or maybe the West Coast, the high desert's probably not the kind of landscape you're familiar with. Just look at that, mile upon mile upon mile of not a single tree. Just that kind of low scrub, grassland, brush kind of thing. Now, there were some people, you can see a pickup truck there, and there's some other guys around. People were out here and in other places right around the area firing their guns, target shooting. So I try to give a little bit of berth because, keep a little bit of distance from them in case, you get a redneck among them that figures, hey, let me bag a drone. But I don't think any of these guys even so much as pointed at me. If you're looking at this video on a tablet or a small screen, shame on you. Definitely need to get yourself a large 4K screen to enjoy this. Maybe Santa will bring one. If you're looking at this on a tablet or a small screen, you probably didn't even see that small plane. Again, look at the sharpness and the detail. It's and again, no sharpening halos. So I think I got the exposure just about right. I did have to, in Premiere Pro, boost the mid-range of the mid-tones a little bit. But the highlights were pretty good. As I turn to the sun, you can see how the sun is kind of coming in the top right-hand corner now. And some of that gets a little blown out, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Notice the kind of puffy clouds in the right corner there? That's pretty neat. Now this was my 5th flight in total for the Phantom 4 Pro. I had to return my first one after only 3 flights because of a gimbal problem. So this was the 2nd flight on my replacement one, which I received just a couple of days ago on Friday. So today was my first day out, Sunday the 11th. So today was my first day out, and pretty pleased so far. Getting a camera with a good lens is always nice, and by my eye, the lens is pretty good from corner to corner, edge to edge. Notice that kind of triangular mountain slope, almost directly ahead of us, maybe a little to the right, and at the sort of the bottom right base of that, you'll see kind of like little black specks, and again, this would be better on a larger screen so you can see it. Those are little trees, and you have to get to some elevation before you get some trees. Down here at the lower levels, it's just this scrub stuff. That little glitch in the video was there in the raw video as well. So this is the second time I've seen that. The previous video I posted also had a glitch. Not quite as bad as the one we just had here. And it was not at a file boundary. With a flight of this length, the total file size was about 13-14 gigabytes. And each file is about 4 gigabytes. So it was 4 separate files, 4 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, and like 2 gigabytes, something like that. Each file is about 5 minutes and 27 seconds. And it didn't seem to make any difference between H.265 and H.264. 4 gigabytes got you about 5 minutes and 27 seconds in either case. But of course, that's running at 100 megabits per second, so it should. The cars you can see, cars and trucks you can see in the distance, and that's 3 or 4 miles away. And further than that as you head to the left. That's Interstate 80, west of Salt Lake City, and about 50 miles from Salt Lake City and about 70 miles from Wendover. Okay, so turned around, just did a little bit of sort of flying backwards with a little bit of right stick as well. The right stick to the right a little bit as well, so kind of going diagonal. And again, the base of that sort of triangular mountain slope in front of us, you can now see the trees a little bit more easily. And the sharpness of that is, pretty darn remarkable. And if you just follow that off towards the right edge, you still see with good sharpness and detail right to the edge and in both sides. So I can't complain about the lens on this. So descending down to, I think, about 75 feet. No, it probably looks like I'm closer, but that's about 75 feet. I'd initially intended to drive this dirt road a little closer to the formation so I didn't have quite so far to fly to it. But with the cold weather, we've had some freezing and some wet in the last couple of days. You do not want to take a regular passenger car on a muddy road where the ground below it's kind of frozen and you got this kind of slippery, like slick as snot kind of mud on top of it. You could have a grade a half a degree and you won't be able to climb it with a car like I have. Not worth the risk. So the sky to the top right-hand corner is actually blown just a little bit. I know it almost looks like it isn't blown, but I know from the lumetri and histogram in Premiere Pro that it is blown just a little bit, and now more of it's there, so more of it's blown. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the kind of compromise that I'm going to make every frickin' time. I could have stopped it down maybe 2/3 of a stop, and the sky would be maybe a tad more detailed with less blown highlights. There'd still probably be a little bit blown, but if I cut the exposure by 2/3, now I got a whole lot more work to bring up the foreground and midground. This is a compromise I'll make every time. Again, look at those little trees at the bottom right base of that triangular slope. And the kind of wispy clouds, little right of center. It's like a condensation at the top of the mountains or near the top of the mountains. Obviously, we've had some snow. So I didn't change the exposure at all during this flight. And that'll screw you up a little bit. I did a C1 on the remote, which I have programmed to do a direct look down. So it basically looks straight down. Press C1 again, and then it pans back up, tilts the camera back up to basically level. Can be kind of disconcerting now. So this is DJI D color profile. I think I mentioned that already. And I think this is the profile that, at least for now, I'm settling on. DJI has just recently, I mean, just in the last couple of days, come out with new firmware for the P4P that have totally redone the color profiles. So they have like film-A through film-I, which I have no idea what they are, and there's absolutely nothing in any documentation that DJI has provided as of yet that details what they are supposed to be. They've removed the art profile, but D-CInelike, D-Log still exist. I tried D-Log today, and yeah, not liking it. So at this point, it looks to me like D-CInelike is the one to use. And you'll notice between the sign and my car, there's kind of like a patterned mat. That's what I was using to take off and land on. But I discovered I'm going to need to weight that so that the prop wash doesn't flip that around. If you get to the side of it, the prop wash will kind of lift that sucker up. So if you come straight down from directly on top, it's okay. But to the side, yeah, you risk having that thing flip up and catch into your props, which would not be good. All right, this is the end of the flight, so thank you for watching.